Hi, this is Zach with Warner Wound. Today I'll be taking a look at the Orient Cdh00001B, which is also called the Explorer. It's a really cool watch that's kind of a great traveler's companion watch because it features kind of all these various mechanical complications which are really useful when you're abroad. Now, generally speaking, when you have a watch with a lot of mechanical complications, it costs a lot of money. But Orient, which is a Japanese brand, their whole kind of thing is that they make these really remarkably affordable mechanical watches, and this is a really great example of that. So you have a dual time function, a power reserve, a decentralized date. You have a slide rule bezel, sapphire crystal on the front, and a sapphire crystal display back. And this watch has an MSRP of $650. But because there's always these 30% off coupon codes that Orient Watch USA runs, this watch will only cost you $455, which is just like I said, a remarkably great deal for a watch of this caliber with all those various features. So yeah, let's take a closer look. Taking a look at the case of the Orient Explorer, it's a pretty large watch. It's 44.5 millimeters in diameter, 50 millimeters lug to lug, and 14 millimeters thick. And that's actually to be expected given the amount of the complexity of the dial and the slide rule bezel. You just need literally to have a larger case to feature all of that. The case design itself, though, is fairly simple and classic looking, which I think is also good to not add any more visual complexity to the watch. One really interesting thing is actually the profile of the watch. As you can see here, it's sort of a bowl shape. The sides, rather than being a slab, round down to this kind of domed case back, which I think actually adds to the comfort of the watch, because it's not, it's a big watch. It's not just a big slab sitting on your wrist. Looking at the crowns here, also you can see that because of kind of just how the slide rule bezel works, that these are not on the exact center line here. So you have the time crown here at 3, and then the internal bezel at 4. Both crowns are signed, and just kind of a nice little tactile crowns. Flipping it over, you can see the display case back here. It's actually a sapphire crystal on the display case back, which is really nice. The movement itself, this Orient 48K40 movement, actually has a little bit of decoration going on. Very minor, though. You have sort of like a perlage pattern on this plate here, and then some striping along the rotor, which does have this big Orient Japan logo. It's actually a very cool looking movement when you look at it. There's a lot of depth to it. Definitely something, just nice. Take the watch off and look at it every now and then. Overall, yeah, I think the case is very successful, kind of displaying this clearly very ornate dial. The dial of the Orient Explorer is very complex and has a lot going on, and there's a lot to look at, but I think once you kind of learn how to read it, it becomes a very clear dial. So to start on the outer edge here, you have this internal slide rule bezel, which is controlled by this crown at 4. This is a really great feature to have on a watch that you're going to use for traveling. You can convert distances with it. You can do multiplication and division very quickly with it. You can also use it for, say, like converting currency on the fly. It's a really useful tool. In terms of the quality of this one, you can feel it's very responsive, and it feels very precise when you move it. There's a little bit of like a rattle in the mechanism, but it's not really a problem. It's just something I've noticed. Now, looking further in, so the dial has a lot of layering going on. It's almost hard to really explain where the various things are. There's a silver, dial index that goes further back, and then there's a layer of black, and then there's a silver here that's applied. It's just a lot of different layers and a lot of depth, and I think that makes actually for a very appealing aesthetic. It's a really nice dial just to simply look at, So here you have this main hour index, which is shown in applied steel markers that each have lume, and they're very kind of thick, which is nice. So they really stand off the dial to kind of be more readable. One slightly weird thing is that you'll see this internal bezel here. You have some numbers lining up with those hours that actually, or with the minutes rather, that don't relate. So here you have 13, but obviously that's the 20th minute. So you kind of have to learn to see one thing and not the other when you need to. Here at 9.5, you have the dual time window. As I said, this watch does have this dual time function that functions separately. You can set essentially 2 time zones. So right now it's showing you that it's 14 hours and 13 minutes and whatever that other time zone is, or 2:13. I really like that it's shown here through a window rather than in the typical GMT fashion of having yet a third hand here, or a fourth hand rather, because it really separates the function out and lets you read the hours more easily. Here below 12, you have the power reserve indicator. Right now it's showing you that it has 30 hours of power left. It's also a great function. You don't want your watch to die, and it's very clear to see how much power you have left. Here above 6, you have this decentralized date. This is actually an interesting function I've never personally seen on a watch before. So rather than the date being shown through a date window, you have the date here, and it's just shown through a hand. I think it's just a nice way to kind of dress up that movement. Obviously, it also adds this kind of very attractive silvered ring here. Overall, I think the dial it's a really interesting dial. For a watch that costs $455, it's a very complicated and layered dial that just kind of speaks to the overall quality of the manufacturing and the brand. The Orient Explorer is powered by the Orient Caliber 48K40, which is a 21 jewel automatic movement that beats at 21,600 beats per hour. And as I've said, it has these various complications in it. So I'll show you now just kind of how to use the movement. So it's a 3-hand movement with a power reserve, dual time, and the date. So to set the dual time, you pull the crown out 1 stop. Rotating it forward will adjust the dual time in half-hour increments, which is actually a little strange because you usually go for a full hour ahead, but that's just how it works. It is very easy to set. Just doing that now, pulling it back out to the first movement, to the first position. Now you can set the date, and that is rotating it towards you. You'll see the hand there just jumps. Pushing it back in, now pulling it out, 2 stops. You'll see the second hand stops. It is a hacking seconds, which is nice, and now you can just set the normal time. The power reserve obviously is just controlled by the amount of tension, of power or tension in the spring, which as you move the watch, it'll naturally wind up. Despite its large size, the Orient Explorer is actually fairly comfortable on the wrist, I find. And that's probably because 50 millimeters lug to lug isn't really that long, even though 44.5 is a fairly large diameter. Clearly, there's a lot going on with this watch, so it has a lot of wrist presence. But I think it's actually kind of a nice watch. There's some elegance to it as well as some sportiness. It's definitely a fun watch to wear because there is so much to look at. And like I said, pretty comfortable. It is tall though, at 14 millimeters, but it's not uncommonly large in any way. So the watch also has these 22 millimeter lugs, and it comes on this Orient black leather strap with kind of a faux croc pattern. Now you might have actually already noticed it looks like the strap is on backwards, and that's not the case. This is actually how the strap was designed, and I actually thought it was weird, and I confirmed that with Orient. So it's a deployment clasp that opens from one side. So you close it, and it pops right through. And it's actually very easy, deployment clasp to get on, but it is backwards in a manner of speaking. Of course, if you wanted to, you could just turn the whole strap around. It really wouldn't make a difference to how you use it, but that is how it's designed. But it's actually a very nice bracelet, and I happen to like the ease at which this deployment clasp opens and closes. I think that you could definitely put this watch probably on a brown strap if you want to open up versatility a little bit. And so it's just a very nice watch to wear. The Orient Explorer comes in this kind of more substantial display box from the brand than other boxes I've seen from Orient. So it has a very hard case. It's this very kind of nice, clean-looking cube. You open it up and kind of flip that down. You have instruction guide here, which just goes all over all their mechanical watches and a little international guarantee. Then you have the watch presented on this little pillow in the box, and it opens up very dramatically, so it really displays it very nicely. So to wrap up, the Orient Explorer is this great watch for people who travel a lot because it has these added functions of the dual time zone, which is always a great thing to have, as well as a slide rule bezel, which is an actual tool on a watch that you can use daily, frankly, anytime you're out. And the watch, so it has all these complications and all these great features, power reserve, dual time, slide rule bezel, decentralized date, sapphire crystal, as well as a sapphire display back. And the watch will only cost you $455. That's just an unbeatable price, really, for what you're getting. I think the look of the watch is really great. You have this dial with a lot of depth and a lot of texture. It is a complicated dial, but, I think once you get used to it, it becomes quite readable, and it's just a very attractive dial, the black and the silver, and there's just lots of little texture. It's something you can really look at endlessly. The build quality is very nice. It's a very good watch for the money, simply put. So I think, if you're looking for kind of a serious watch and you travel a lot, or you just want kind of a watch with a nice complicated look to it, this might be the great watch for you. So once again, this is Zach with Worn and Wound. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to read the full review on Worn and Wound. Come again. Thank you.